What is up, my friends out there? Welcome to Gamers with Gains. So today, exciting stuff to talk about. Let's talk about Destiny, The Taken King. This is kind of my review of everything that's been going on with The Taken King. You can actually find out my full write-up about The Taken King over on thecoalition.com. There'll be a link in the description box below. But let's talk about this. Okay, this is the Destiny game that we deserved well over a year ago. It's taken a year to get to this point through all the updates, through all the feedback, and all the adjustments that the team over at Bungie has been making with Destiny as a platform between the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. You could throw in the PS3 and the 360 in there, whatever. I usually play the games on PlayStation 4, so I'm going to kind of reference that a little bit more in my talk about this. So overall, let's talk about the story-based content. The story has always been one of Destiny's kind of lowest points. Bungie has gotten a ton of different complaints and feedback about the overall story and the lore of Destiny as a whole. They haven't really kind of, put a lot of emphasis on it, or it was kind of building over time. But I feel like, at least with the Taken King and all this new DLC and all this new additional content, they really got it right as far as both the presentation, presenting the events as far as the importance of what's going on, showcasing the characters. Everything about the story as a whole, the story-based missions, and all the characters you interact with is on a whole new level of high for Bungie right now. This is the best that it's ever been since the last two DLCs, both the Dark Below and House of Wolves, came out for the Taken King. For Destiny, I should say, not the Taken King, but for Destiny. So, Taken King has an awesome, story plot that actually goes and follows a lot of the missions and the events that what goes on between the different factions with the coming of Aurochs, the Taken King, quote unquote. The guy's name is in the title. But with that being said, what I really love is not only the cutscenes, they look absolutely beautiful. I think they're a little bit much more fine-tuned and polished, a little more so than what we saw both in House of Wolves, as well as also the original Destiny and Dark Below. They look really cool, to be honest with you. Some key important events, again, I'm not going to spoil it because I really want you guys to go check it out, happen right at the very beginning of the Taken King's DLC. Some really crazy stuff that happens. And then as you go through the entire story, by the time you finish and you actually take on the Taken King, so much take thrown in there. But when you actually fight Aurochs, the Taken King, it leads up to a climax that I really think is very satisfying. The best story that has been part of Destiny thus far, and really yields a lot of rewards, not just in terms of the gear and the loot that what you get, but the satisfaction of following this story throughout the entirety that the game has been out, over the course of the year. With that being said, though, let's talk about some of the updates of which come with the Taken King. Now, obviously, there was a big patch, 2.0 patch, that happened sometime right before the Taken King was actually released. Changed up the way that characters leveled up, changed up the way that equipment was used in Year 1, all the different types of exotics and the different legendary weapons that you picked up within Destiny's first year for the first two DLCs in the original game are now a little bit obsolete, which is kind of the lowest point I can say about the Taken King. A lot of the hard work of which you did and actually put into actually getting all these different exotic weapons and exotic armor, legendary weapons that were really good, or guns that really you stuck with through the entirety of Destiny's first year, most of those become obsolete. And the reason being is because a lot of those exotics that were really good the first time around didn't carry over into Destiny's second year. What happens is some of the weapons actually get new revised versions with different stats and different abilities that were mildly variations from their Year 1 counterparts. So let's say if you find the Hawkmoon on the Taken King, it'll be a little bit different than the Hawkmoon that was actually put out during the first year of Destiny. It'll have a little bit of adjusted stats, and I think also a little bit of different abilities. But again, that's just speaking for exotics. You could actually get all the Year 1 exotics if you find them and actually have them stored on a blueprint that allows you to break them down, and you don't necessarily have to keep holding on to the ones that you don't need at the moment. You could always break them down, get the exotic shards, use it for something else, and then when you get another exotic shard later on, you could always try to rebuild it afterwards and kind of, mess around with stuff. But going back to the armor and such, this is a big deal for the armor because not only since the light level and the way that it's kind of figured out and the strength of your character has been adjusted, necessarily you have to pick up a lot more different armors that drop from the different engrams during the course of missions. So you will see yourself actually swapping out a lot of different armor. You'll find yourself maybe not using some of the exotics or the legendary armor that you used beforehand, again, due to the stats and due to better stuff being out there. Most of the time, and a lot of the reports I keep seeing online, as well as through experience from myself, a lot of people end up using a lot of blue pieces of armor, rare pieces of armor, rather than legendaries and exotics, mainly because the stats and the light level increases are much better this time around than it has been in the past. So Besides that, obviously, the level cap is level 40, which you could get up to easily through doing bounties and doing missions and strikes and stuff. Crucible has been fine-tuned, not only because of the weapons and the adjustments that's been going on with the armor as well, but obviously we have Rift, a new gameplay type. We have Mayhem, which is completely awesome. It's just basically all-out chaos team deathmatch, where everybody's super just kind of like increases like crazy. We get double the score. Respawns are like super quick. It happens mostly on weekends, or happens on kind of like a off basis where the playlist becomes available all the time. Not all the time though. The playlist becomes available every once in a while. And I really wish it was available all the time, because that game type is just purely fun, and you can complete a lot of bounties just by going into Mayhem and such. But besides that, also a couple things I do have to mention. The strikes, the weekly and the nightfall. A lot of this stuff has been adjusted. The weekly is actually now a playlist where instead of the actual strike itself that actually gets cycled through every single week, it actually cycles every time you actually go into the actual weekly, but you actually cycle through modifiers every single week. There's different modifiers that pop up every single week that change up the dynamics of all the strikes that you play. Sometimes you'll get fresh new enemies on a strike that you've never seen before. Sometimes you'll get different types of modifiers that boost up your weapons or the weapons of your enemies. Things really kind of are dynamic here, and every time that you go into a weekly strike or again into a nightfall, you're never going to have the same experience twice, which I really love. It keeps the game fresh, it keeps the game like feeling like it was brand new, and there's something always going on there. And on top of that, the rewards are plenty. So every time that you go into a weekly strike, you're going to get a ton of rewards. It's not like how it was before where you only had to do it once per week, where you're going to get only a set amount of rewards, and then every time you do it again, you're not going to get anything from doing it. The only time when this actually applies is when you're actually trying to go for legendary marks. Legendary marks are the new currency. They came with the 2.0 update. So rather than have Vanguard and Crucible marks, you just have one type of currency called legendary marks. Those are the things you can only get a certain amount of times every single week before the weekly refresh. So with the weekly, you get a certain amount of marks there, but you'll still be able to get all the drops, not only from the enemies that you kill, but also at the end of each mission, you'll get all these different engrams and pieces of armor that you can add on to yourself based off the equipment you already have. So a lot of changes with Destiny the Taken King. I'm still doing all the different missions and extra endgame content that come out way after the story, which I think is crazy. Once you hit level 40, this is when the game really opens up, and this is what we've always wanted with Destiny for the past year or so. Had the game launched in this type of fashion, Destiny would have probably been one of the biggest, like, critically rated first-person shooters of this console generation. Hands down, it is highly addictive. If you really get into it, I really suggest that you get into it with at least one or two friends, because even playing through this game alone, it's still fun, but really the core of the experience is when you have a couple buddies that allow you not only to do some of the strikes, some of the Crucible playlists, but also the raids, which a raid at the time I'm actually making this video comes out today. I believe it's 1 p.m. I think Pacific Standard Time, which is like later on in the day for here on the East Coast. But again, all this fresh content just being thrown at you guys. People are going to be playing this game for a very, very long time. Game is awesome. Taken King is well worth the asking price. It's about $40 right now. It not only gets you the Taken King content, but you also get content for the Dark Below and House of Wolves. Pretty damn awesome. I highly suggest that no matter what platform you guys are on, you pick up Destiny the Taken King. Again, check out the rest of my actual thoughts in my write-up down in the description box below on thecoalition.com. Had a whole bunch of extra stuff to say about the game. So that's just my thoughts, guys. Leave a comment in the comment section below. Tell me what you guys think about Destiny the Taken King, any kind of cool memories and cool opinions that you guys might have about the game, and I will talk to you guys again real soon. Peace out. Stay epic, everybody.